Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis at third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Schultz. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Arizona Diamondbacks in the first game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup for the D-backs, right-hander Slade Cecconi, and for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease. Hi again everyone, Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 6:40 at Chase Field in Arizona. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Schultz. We'll also check in with Padres radio voice Jesse Agler in just a few minutes. We'll also check in with Jesse Friedman, who covers the D-backs for PHNX Sports. Get a good look at the Diamondbacks as the Padres play the D-backs for the very first time this season. And we hear from today's third baseman for the Padres, Tyler Wade. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres entered today with a record of 16-18. They had a 5-game losing skid heading into Tuesday, but 2 consecutive wins against the Reds. A series win against the Reds has things looking up. Meanwhile, Arizona coming off a World Series appearance, but the team here in 2024 off to a slow start. D-backs are 14-18 to begin the season. They've dealt with a ton of injuries in this early season. Merrill Kelly, Alec Thomas, Eduardo Rodriguez, Paul Sewald, Geraldo Perdomo, Ryan Nelson, all on the IL. Zach Gallen was originally slated to start this game here today, but he's been dealing with a hamstring issue, so he got pushed back. Gallen pushed back. That means the young right-hander Slade Cecconi will make his 3rd start of the season against the Padres here tonight. Meanwhile, Dylan Cease takes the mound for the Padres. He's been mostly great for San Diego so far, but he's coming off a tougher outing against the Phillies last weekend. Before we turn our full attention to this road trip, let's take a look back at Wednesday's series finale against the Reds.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
The Padres trailed 1-0 in the 4th inning and had another scoring opportunity. There were runners on second and third with 2 men away for the red-hot Jurickson Profar.
Here's the 1-0. Profar swings, lines it into left center field, a base hit. He's 3 for 3. Merrill has scored. Wade's on his way. Throw to the plate, not even close. And behind the play, Profar into second base. Not only have the Padres tied it, they've gone in front 2-1.
But the lead was short-lived. Joe Musgrove gave up a run in the top of the 5th inning. Was a really good outing for Joe. 6 innings, 2 earned runs given up. We were still tied at 2-2. Going bottom 7, Tyler Wade led off with a bunt single. Jurickson Profar singled to send Wade to third base. Fernando Tatis Jr. walked. So the Padres had the bases loaded with nobody out for Jake Cronenworth.
First pitch swinging in the air, deep to right field, towards the porch, gonna go! Grand slam, Jake Cronenworth. And the Padres not only break the tie, they get them all home. It's 6-2.
Yuki Matsui, Enyel De Los Santos, Wandy Peralta, and Robert Suarez combined for 3 scoreless innings out of the Padres bullpen. Final score on Wednesday at Petco Park, the Padres 6 and the Reds 2. And now the Padres going for a 3-game winning streak as they begin this series and this road trip in Arizona. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can tweet at me or Instagram DM me at SammyLev, SammyLev. You can also comment on one of our various video streams if you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Comment on the video, Let us know what your key to the game is. You can tweet or DM me with your key to the game, and I may just read your key to the game coming up a little bit later. And, of course, we'll have my keys to tonight's game coming up a little bit later in our pregame coverage as well. As we get ready for first pitch coming up at 6:40 in Arizona, let's go inside the Padres radio booth.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
We go to Phoenix, Arizona. We're joined by Padres radio voice Jesse Agler as we get ready for this series and road trip opener. And Jesse, let's start with Jurickson Profar. Coming off the 4-for-4 day on Wednesday, he continues to do just terrific things at the plate. What do you make of what Jurickson Profar has done in the first month plus now of this season?
I mean, is there anything other to say than you couldn't ask any more? I mean, you talk about exceeding expectations. It's important to remember back to last year. And he actually got off to a decent enough start with Colorado. But by, the middle of the summer, he was really, really struggling. I mean, it wasn't just that he wasn't producing. It's that he was arguably one of the worst regular players in baseball last year. And the crazy thing about that was that we saw him be productive, certainly, and play a really nice left field for the Padres the season before. So, he gets to San Diego late last season. And he plays great. And you think, all right, well, welcome back. This is kind of a fun little story. The Padres go 16-5 in the 21 games with him on the active roster. And he was a little bit a part of, the fun that we had in the last few weeks of the season a year ago. Comes back on a new contract this year. It's really a very minor deal when you think about it. And it's kind of like, all right, whatever you get is going to be a bonus. And you look up on May 3rd, and he's hitting .342. Now, obviously, you don't expect that to continue all year long, but what a marvelous, marvelous story and a really good reminder of something we talk about often, which is that, environment matters. More for some guys than others, certainly. There are hitters, I am sure, that if they woke up in Denver or St. Louis or Boston or Philadelphia, they'd hit the same no matter what. But for a lot of guys, the environment matters. Jurickson has talked an awful lot about that and how comfortable he is here because of his teammates, because of the city, because of the fans, and he just feels at his best wearing the Padre uniform. And it has really, really been fun to watch, and just so happy for this guy that he's been able to have that kind of success.
Yeah, I'm happy for him, too, and it's been a lot of fun to watch, and hopefully continues out of that leadoff spot. Jurickson back in that top spot in the Padres lineup here today. Jesse, let's talk about this pitching matchup. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres, coming off one of his tougher outings of the season against the Phillies. On the other side of this pitching matchup, a young right-hander by the name of Slade Ciccone making his third start of the season, somebody the Padres actually saw out of the bullpen in August of last year. And even though Padres fans may have never heard of Slade Ciccone, so far, Jesse, the numbers and the outings have been pretty good.
He's a real one. In fact, we were just talking to some of the Diamondback people about him a moment ago. They like the way he pitches a lot. He apparently has a tremendous mound presence, a guy who's not out there pitching scared. He can throw hard, but it's not, crazy hard. And this new changeup that he apparently stole from Merrill Kelly has been really, really effective here in the early going. He had tried all kinds of different ways to grip that pitch, figure it out. He had kind of abandoned it a little bit. But, he knew he wanted a changeup. He knew he probably needed a changeup to be able to be a successful starter in the big leagues. And one day watching Merrill Kelly work in the bullpen, he said, all right, that's the one I want to try, and it's been great for him. So he's going to pitch with a lot of guts out on the mound, they say. There's no doubt. He's one of these guys. He's a top 20 prospect, a guy that they expect to be a big part of their future going forward. We'll kind of see how it goes. He's not, at least to this point, and it's so early in his career, you hate to, tag him as something or not, but he has not been a big strikeout guy yet. There's not a lot of swing and a miss. It's a lot of weak contact. And those guys obviously have a little bit more of a finer margin of error than maybe somebody who's overpowering with a lot of Ks. So, if the Padres can barrel up a couple, maybe get some batted ball luck, maybe make life difficult on them in terms of running the bases, that could probably go a long way.
And Ciccone, a University of Miami guy as well.
As long as you're mentioning it, Sam. Yes.
He'll take on the Padres here tonight as they begin this series in Arizona. Jesse, one final thing for you. Jackson Merrill going through the first struggles of his early major league career, and at some point this was probably bound to happen. He got off to such a good start. Little bit of a skid right now. As he tries to come out of it, what will be the signs you now look for as Jackson now tries to battle out of a skid?
Probably getting back to a little bit more plate discipline. As happens with every hitter in the history of baseball, you start going a little bit wrong, right? And now you start expanding and you start chasing a little bit. We saw him really with elite plate discipline right out of the gates. That was one of the things that was so remarkable about, the way that he took his at-bats early on in his major league career was that, he was up there spitting on these close pitches, and you're thinking to yourself, my gosh, you're not supposed to have that kind of plate discipline with that amount of experience at that age. And he's looked a little bit more like a normal human as opposed to a superhero in the last, call it week and a half, whatever it is. And when he starts tightening that back up, that'll probably be a sign of things returning to the way they were. But again, as I have said a million times, as I will say a million more, there's a reason you play Chutes and Ladders as a kid. It is not always a straight line up in life. In fact, it almost never is. In whatever walk of life you're in, very rarely is it just a staircase that only goes up. You are going to hit your bumps. Sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're smaller. Just look across the field at Corbin Carroll.
Right.
Burst onto the scene last year. National League Rookie of the Year. Looks like he's going to be an MVP contender for years to come. Right now he's hitting 197 and batting 8th for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So, look, it happens in the micro, in terms of Jackson in the last couple of weeks. It happens in the macro in terms of really the first full month of the season for Corbin Carroll. There are guys who have great years and then early in their careers have terrible next years. And it doesn't mean you got to give up on them. That is just
right.
the nature of this cruel sport and, some of the challenges that the young guys face. That's what makes somebody like Fernando or Manny so absolutely remarkable is that they pretty much showed up and did it always. And those are the guys that are just the absolute freaks of nature, and they are very few and far between.
Yeah, well said, and a good point on Corbin Carroll as well. We'll talk a little bit more about Corbin Carroll's season so far a little bit later in our pregame coverage. Jesse, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 6:30. Thanks so much.
You got it, Sam.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us here on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show as we get ready for today's game on the Padres radio network. A lot to do between now and first pitch. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Plus, a little bit later, we catch up on the Diamondbacks, a deep dive into what the Diamondbacks have done so far this year. Obviously, a divisional opponent of the Padres. First time we've seen the D-backs here in 2024, so we'll chat with Jesse Friedman, who does a really nice job covering the Diamondbacks for PHNX Sports. Plus, we'll hear from Tyler Wade coming up a little bit later. Who's hot, who's not, are keys to the game, and a much deeper dive into this pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Slade Ciccone. First pitch coming up at 6:40. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres radio network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for the opener of a 3-game series between the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Appreciate you joining us on this Friday evening. Hope you are well on your way to wherever you might be heading. If you're in the car, hopefully not too much traffic on this Friday. Really nice day here in San Diego. Sun was out. I even played some pickleball earlier, so I had a good day. Hope you had a good day too, and hope you're settling in for Padres baseball here tonight. We'll tell you who's hot, who's not coming up in just a bit, but first let's hear from the Padres skipper.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Schultz. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
A few items to touch on today from Mike Schultz. You take a look at the Padres lineup today, and you'll see Manny Machado DHing and batting cleanup. The fact that Manny's not is in the lineup is not a surprise at all. But you thought maybe he would play third base today, considering the Padres did have an off day yesterday. We've seen Manny pretty much, aside from one day where he did play back-to-back, be one day on, one day off from third base. Here was Mike Schultz earlier today on why Manny is DHing for this game instead of playing third base.
Just making sure he got 2 additional days to go after a day off and the DH to continue the recovery process, but he feels good, and just a 2-day window to create that recovery that's taking place to make sure he's in a good place.
So is it still a build-up, like he could go then the next 2 and then a day off, or something, but the goal right now is still a build-up? That's
correct. Yeah, he could go 2 in a row, day off. It's pretty fluid, but we expect him to be in there tomorrow at third and then take Sunday, see where he's at.
So that was Mike Schultz talking about why Manny is DHing today. And yes, I know the background music today is very loud. Hopefully you enjoy it. Maybe you're pumping your fist as you listen to the music in the background there. More from Mike Schultz, more on the lineup. Ha-Sung Kim back in the number 8 spot tonight, playing shortstop. Here was Mike Schultz on why Kim has batted 8th as of late.
I think it's more of a balancing act of the lineup, and just other guys are, doing some things that we like, and, a little bit of handiness matchup relative to the pitcher. So it's a combination of things. I mean, we're hitting Kimmy 8th. That's a pretty good lineup.
And finally, we have 2 more left here from Mike Schultz. We mentioned Jackson Merrill. I'll get more into it coming up in our Who's Hot, Who's Not segment. But Jackson going through some struggles right now for the very first time in his major league career. Here was Mike Schultz on how Jackson is handling those recent struggles.
I think he's handling it fine. I think he's really approach-driven. The one thing is he's just chasing a little bit more than he has prior. So it's about getting back to getting good pitches to hit and just putting a good swing on it and be on time with his eyes and his body.
Do you think that's a product, maybe a little bit of the league adjusting to him after seeing some tape on the first?
I think there's something to that. I think that the league, has more awareness of what he's doing. There's more video going around. It's a constant game. That's the beautiful thing about this game. Adjust, counter-adjust, and, I'm confident Jackson's in the process of doing just that, adjusting.
And finally, Donovan Solano continues to be with AAA El Paso. It's pretty widely expected that he's going to join the Padres at some point here in the not-too-distant future. Here was Mike Schultz when he was asked if there's any update on Solano right now.
I spoke with Zamo, the manager down there at Pete Zamora. Pretty much got what I expected about Donovan, complete pro. Locked in, taking great at-bats, great approach, and, really, just having professional at-bats consistently.
With a veteran like that, maybe the idea is like he'll tell you kind of like, not that he would say, call me up now, come up, but like he'll tell you when he's ready.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more of a AJ and his discussion, but I think that's definitely part of the equation.
So that was Mike Schultz on Donovan Solano, his status, and we'll continue to keep you posted on what's going on with Donovan Solano, and we will hear more from Mike Schultz after the ball game later on tonight during our post-game coverage. And with that music in the background of the pregame press conference, I don't know, I think Frank and I might be inspired to go to the dance club after tonight's game. We'll see. Let's quickly pause for station ID on the Padres radio network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for game one of this three-game series between the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. First pitch coming up at 6:40 at Chase Field in Arizona. Now let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
A lot to get to here. We begin with the hot category. Jurickson Profar, certainly in that category for the Padres, riding an 8-game hitting streak to begin this road trip. 15 for 30. That's 500 in that span with 4 extra base hits, 6 RBIs. Right now, Jurickson Profar ranks 8th in the majors with a .342 batting average on the season. His OPS plus of 179 also ranks 8th in the major leagues. Jake Cronenworth in the midst of a 6-game hit streak, 7 for 22 in that span, 5 extra base hits and 9 RBIs over that 6-game hit streak right now for Jake Cronenworth. For the Diamondbacks, one guy in the hot category, Christian Walker, who has done some really good things over the years against the Padres. I'll have more on that a little bit later. He's in the midst of a 9-game on-base streak, hitting .323 with 4 home runs, 9 RBIs in that span. A lot of guys to get to in the not category for both teams right now. For the D-backs, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. just 1 for 26 in his last 6 games. Corbin Carroll's having a really tough start to his season. He's hitting just .197 with a .299 on-base percentage in 30 games so far this year. In his last 10 games, Carroll is just 4 for 36. Eugenio Suarez for Arizona, also in the not category, 5 for 31 in his last 8 games. And for the Padres, Jackson Merrill 0 for his last 19. Again, first struggles we've seen for Jackson in the very early part of his major league career. We'll also put Fernando Tatis Jr., Xander Bogaerts in the not category. More on them coming up a little bit later, but both struggling right now, Tatis and Bogaerts. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for this series opener in Arizona. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, I check in with Jesse Friedman. Does a great job covering the Diamondbacks for PHNX Sports, writes a lot of great articles, podcasts, videos, and really knows the D-backs inside and out. So we'll check in with Jesse when we come back. Plus, a little bit later, we hear from today's third baseman, Tyler Wade. We have the out-of-town scoreboard, our keys to the game, and much more to come. First pitch at 6:40 in Arizona. This is the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game between the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Game one of this three-game series. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios, and right now I'm joined by Jesse Friedman of PHNX Sports. Does a great job covering the Arizona Diamondbacks for PHNX. Jesse, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Sam. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Excited for this series between the Padres and the Diamondbacks. Let's take the big picture view of the D-backs here. Obviously, a terrific postseason in 2023, a trip to the World Series, but now off to a slower start this season, 14-18. It seems like injuries have been a major factor the early part of this season. Give us the big picture view right now of the Arizona Diamondbacks and their start to 2024.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head talking about injuries. The Diamondbacks currently have 10 major leaguers on the injured list, and some really important contributors. Paul Sewald, the closer that they acquired at the trade deadline last year, he's been out with an oblique strain since the start of the year. Eduardo Rodriguez, who was one of their bigger acquisitions over the offseason, he has yet to make a start. He strained his lat just about 10 days before the season started. It looks like it's going to be probably until June at the earliest for him, so still a long wait there. Diamondbacks lost their starting shortstop, Geraldo Perdomo, shortly after the start of the year. Alec Thomas, their starting center fielder, has missed most of the season as well with a hamstring issue. Merrill Kelly, who of course was very instrumental in the Diamondbacks postseason success last season, he has also been shelved and is expected to miss pretty significant time with a strain in his right shoulder. So Diamondbacks have been decimated, Sam, by injuries. Frankly, it's something they really haven't had to deal with. They've been one of the healthier teams in baseball the last couple of years, but these things just kind of go in waves, and the Diamondbacks have been hit hard here early in the season, and it's certainly had an impact on their slow start so far.
And it seems like another issue for the Diamondbacks has been Corbin Carroll, who obviously terrific player, Rookie of the Year in the National League a year ago and had so many great moments in the postseason as well. Batting under 200, though, Jesse, in his first 30 games of this season. What's been going on with Carroll the early part of this year?
Yeah, it's a pretty different guy than what we saw last season. I mean, Corbin last year, it felt like it was 2022. He bursts on the scene, gets a call up in late August, and starts hitting pretty much the moment that he puts on a big league uniform. And last season was very much a continuation of that. He wasn't just the Rookie of the Year, but he finished 5th MVP voting.
Right.
The guy that we've seen so far this year has not been the same. He has really just struggled to really impact the baseball a whole lot. A lot of those base hits that he has had have come from his speed, being able to run out choppers on the infield and whatnot. I do think we've seen a better version of him here in the last few days. Manager Torey Lovello, after the Diamondbacks series finale with the Dodgers on Wednesday, said that he thinks that Corbin's day one of sort of getting back to himself was earlier in the week on Monday. He had a pretty decent series against the Dodgers. So, yeah, it looks like the course might be changing with him, but it's been a rough start for sure. There have been a lot of pop-ups. We've seen a lot of teams really attack him high and inside, and he's sort of had some issues making that adjustment and adapting to the big leagues. And, he's one of those few guys who pretty much the moment that he entered the majors, he was having success right away. He hasn't really had to deal with a whole lot of adversity like he has now.
Yeah, and right, guys struggle sometimes. Superstars struggle sometimes for extended stretches. So I'd be willing to bet personally that Corbin Carroll ends up bouncing back pretty soon here. Again, we're joined by Jesse Friedman of PHNX. Does a great job covering the Arizona Diamondbacks, both in print, online, with what he writes, and also does a great job podcasting and a number of different things. As far as the pitching for the Diamondbacks here tonight, right-hander Slade Cecconi on the mound for Arizona. Young right-hander. Zach Gallen initially was slated to start tonight against the Padres. He got pushed back. Can you take us inside why Gallen was pushed back and give us a little preview on Slade Cecconi?
Yeah, Zach Gallen tweaked his hamstring in his previous start against the Seattle Mariners. It sounded like the Diamondbacks were just going to have him make his next start. His between outing bullpen session went fine. He was originally scheduled to start on Wednesday against the Dodgers, but as some people might have heard, there was an incident with bees in Tuesday's game between the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers that resulted in them scratching Jordan Montgomery, who was slated to start that game. They pushed Montgomery to Wednesday, and then they wound up just deciding to skip Gallen this time around altogether in order to just give him some extra time. My understanding is that it's really just a precautionary thing and that his hamstring should be just fine moving forward. As far as Slade Ciccone is concerned, he's the guy who stepped into Merrill Kelly's role. When Merrill Kelly went down with that injury, Slade stepped in and made that start last minute, and he's made a couple of starts now for the Diamondbacks, and he's been really good. He's pitched 6 innings both times out. He has an ERA under 2. He hasn't really allowed many base runners. There's been a lot of soft contact. He had 8 strikeouts against the Mariners in his most recent outing. And so, yeah, I mean, he's a young up and coming starter for this team who's really come on strong here in the early going, and obviously has pretty big shoes to fill there, taking Merrill Kelly's spot in the rotation.
Jesse, as always, appreciate the time. Great insight on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Enjoy this series, and we'll talk to you again sometime down the road.
Sounds good, Sam. Thanks so much.
Again, a big thank you to Jesse Friedman of PHNX Sports joining us here on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. A lot of good insight there on the Arizona Diamondbacks as the Padres get ready to begin this series in Phoenix against the D-backs. First pitch coming up at 6:40. Let's dive into some of those injuries the Diamondbacks have been dealing with this season.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at BadaFulkerson.com.
Like we've alluded to a few times now, Diamondbacks are dealing just with a ton of injuries the first month plus of this season. Just to give you an idea, guys on the IL right now for Arizona: Geraldo Perdomo, Alec Thomas, Miguel Castro, Luis Frias, Ryan Nelson, Paul Sewald, Dre Jameson is on the 60-day IL. Merrill Kelly is on the 60-day. Kyle Nelson is on the 60-day. Eduardo Rodriguez, a major free agent signing in the offseason, also on the 60-day. And again, Zach Gallen was originally scheduled to make the start today. He was pushed back to next week, so the Padres will miss Gallen entirely. They've dealt with a ton of injuries so far this season. The Padres, no new news to update you on as far as injuries, which, as always, knock on wood, is good news. So that's the update on the injuries for both the Padres and the Diamondbacks entering this 3-game series in Arizona. We'll have our keys to the game coming up in just a moment, but let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at scores from around the major leagues. One final already today. The Brewers beat the Cubs 3-1 at Wrigley Field. The game's going on right now. Orioles and the Reds are scoreless in the first inning in Cincinnati. Rockies ahead of the Pirates 3-0 in Pittsburgh in the 9th inning. Mets trailing the Rays 10-7 in Tampa Bay in the 8th. Giants trailing the Phillies 4-3 in Philadelphia in the 7th. Nationals 5, Blue Jays 3, 8th inning in D.C. Tigers ahead of the Yankees in the Bronx 1-0, 7th inning there. Angels ahead of the Guardians 6-0, 7th inning in Cleveland. Rangers and the Royals tied at 1 in Kansas City, 7th inning there. 5th inning in Minnesota, Twins ahead of the Red Sox 1-0. Mariners ahead of the Astros 3-1 at Minute Maid Park in Houston, 5th inning there. Cardinals ahead of the White Sox 2-0 in St. Louis in the 4th. Games yet to begin. Marlins and the A's in Oakland at 6:40. Braves and the Dodgers in L.A. at 7:10. Pitching matchup in L.A. tonight. Charlie Morton on the mound for Atlanta. Gavin Stone on the mound for L.A. Good matchup there between the Braves and the Dodgers over the weekend in L.A. And that's a look at the full out-of-town scoreboard on this Friday across the major leagues. Again, if you want to let me know your keys to the game, you can do that in a variety of different ways. You can tweet at me at SammyLev, SammyLev. You can also Instagram DM me at the same handle, SammyLev, or you can comment on the video streams either on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Let me know what's your key to today's game. May just read it here on the air. We have Hayden tweeting in saying, key to the game is the same as it's been in the last few wins. Profar sets the table from the top of the lineup. Well, Hayden, you might be onto something because here are my keys to tonight's game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number one, keep the D-backs offense quiet. Arizona's offense has not been great as of late. They're averaging just 2 runs per game. In their last 7 games, Arizona has lost 5 of their last 7. Offense has not been good at all. For the D-backs, don't let them get hot here tonight or during this series. That's key number one. Key number 2, this has been a theme as of late, but we got to continue to say it. The big 3, Tatis, Bogarts, and Machado. Fernando Tatis Jr., just 6 for 46 with 14 strikeouts in his last 12 games. Xander Bogaerts, 3 for his last 19 in the last 5 games. No extra base hits in that span, 7 strikeouts. He's hitting just .217 with a .284 on base percentage in 32 games to begin the year. Manny Machado has 1 extra base hit, a double. It was a big one in the game on Tuesday night, that win. But again, just 1 extra base hit in his last 12 games now. He's slugging only .383. That would be a career low if it keeps up that way. So getting big-time production from Fernando, Xander, and Manny, certainly a big key, both here tonight and in this series. And to what we just read, our fan keys to, key to the game, well, my third key, Jerkson Profar in the leadoff spot. He has been terrific in general this season, but certainly out of that spot as well. Profar 10 for 16, 2 doubles, a home run in 4 games since taking over that top spot in the lineup. Profar ranks 5th in the NL in batting average at .342. He ranks 3rd in on-base percentage at .431 and 9th in slugging at .523. He has been outstanding. He's only got better when leading off. What does Profar do tonight in the leadoff spot? That's key number 3. And that's a look at our keys to the game. When we come back here on the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll hear from Tyler Wade, today's starting third baseman for the Padres. We'll also dive into a couple of guys you want to keep an eye on in that Diamondbacks lineup here today. And we have a full breakdown of our pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Slade Ciccone. Plus, I read some of your keys to the game. First pitch coming up at 6:40 in Arizona. I'm Sam Levitt on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 6:40 as the Padres take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We'll hear from Tyler Wade, today's third baseman, coming up in just a little bit. We'll also take a deep dive into our pitching matchup between Slade Cecconi and Dylan Cease. But first, let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
We take a look at what to watch for in today's game. Really two things to watch for, two players in the Arizona lineup. Number one, Gabriel Moreno. Back in the lineup today. He was scratched on Wednesday due to a dental procedure. He was really good against the Padres last year. Hit .367 against them, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, and then he was really good in general in the postseason as well. Good catcher in the National League West. The other guy to keep an eye on against the Padres, Christian Walker. 8 home runs and a .541 slugging percentage against the Padres since 2022. That's the third highest slugging percentage among active players against the Padres behind Mookie Betts and Ryan McMahon, 2 names we know very well. So keep an eye on those 2 guys here today, guys that have hurt the Padres in the past, Gabriel Moreno and Christian Walker. Well, Tyler Wade is at third base for the Padres here today. Had a really good conversation with Tyler inside the Padres clubhouse on Wednesday, and he's somebody who obviously plays a number of different positions with the Padres, primarily some third, some second base. He started at second base on Wednesday. Here was Tyler Wade on his pregame routine, how he gets ready for all those different positions.
Obviously, with Manny back now, my routine's changed. So I do my early work. I hit all my infield positions in early work. I do my ground ball, so I touch up at third, short, and second. A little bit of first now. And then during batting practice, all 3 groups, I hit left, center, right. So basically, I treat my practice like my games, right? Like that. I do my infield stuff early, and then the best way to get reads in the outfield is during batting practice. Or if there's early work on machines, I'll jump out there and get some reads. So yeah, that's just the best way for me to get a game ready, and that's something that's worked for me over the course of my 7-year career.
And I thought that was an interesting answer from Tyler Wade, and we had a good conversation inside the Padres clubhouse on Wednesday. We'll see how Tyler Wade does here tonight, playing third base and batting ninth. Let's dive into our pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Slade Cecconi.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
On the mound for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease, the 28-year-old in 2024 so far, 3-2 at 2.78 ERA, 6 starts, 35 innings and 2/3, 40 strikeouts and 14 walks. Last start Saturday against the Phillies, a little bit tougher for him. Did go 6 innings, but gave up 5 earned runs on 5 hits. The 4 starts before that, a 1.44 ERA in 25 innings. As we know, Cease has been really good against righties. Righties batting .090 against them in 67 at-bats. Lefties at .204 and 54 at-bats. One career start against Arizona came in 2022 when he was a member of the White Sox, went 8 innings, 2 runs given up, 2 hits. So the only other start he's made against Arizona, a really good one. On the mound for the D-backs, right-hander Slade Cecconi, 24 years old. He'll make his 3rd start of the season. He's been really good so far, a 2.25 ERA. In his first 2 starts, he struck out 11 and walked 1. Quality outings in the first 2 against both the Giants and the Mariners. 33rd overall pick in 2020 from the University of Miami. Made his major league debut last year. Had a 4.33 ERA in 7 games. First career start against the Padres. He did face them last year in August out of the bullpen, inning and 2/3 scoreless in that appearance. So that's a look at our pitching matchup here today. Dylan Cease against Slade Cecconi. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Padres enter today's game with a record of 16-18. Diamondbacks off to a slow start after an appearance in the World Series in 2023. They're now 14-18 on the year. Padres have won 2 in a row. Wins against the Reds on Tuesday and Wednesday. A series win against Cincinnati. And now we'll see if the Padres can take that momentum on the road as they begin this 6-game road trip in Arizona. When we come back, Jesse and Tony have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to Rays Baseball 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game.